Today we're doing episode 15, and so we're going to show a little treat for you guys, our YouTube friends. Probably my favorite read aloud book, and for book suggestions, and I know it's
this isn't your favorite read aloud book. Well, book about.
Oh, I'm sorry. A book about why you're reading aloud. So amazing.
Yeah.
And she only has her own podcast, Sarah Mackenzie.
We're not recording them.
No. We're just
the video.
YouTube. Yeah.
Sorry.
So this is just for you guys. That this is a great book. So
yeah,
would recommend.
Highly recommend. Yes.
Okay, now we're gonna start. You start this time.
All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to Called to Homeschool. We're excited to be here and to talk about both of our favorite topics, the Read-Alouds, and it's a good one.
I love this, and I think somebody who was a homeschool mom and then when her kids graduated went and taught at a private school, and she said, you want to know the most important thing you can do with your kids? Read to them. Read to your babies.
Definitely, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I years ago read the what's it called, the Read-Aloud Handbook by Jim Trelease.
Oh yes, and that's who she was inspired by.
Yeah, and then she's just throwing it out there. One of our favorite books that both of us have recently read is called The Read-Aloud Family by Sarah Mackenzie.
Yes, and so she was inspired by Jim.
Yeah, it's an incredible book that we both really recommend, and we'll give you a lot of insight into the importance of read-alouds and also some great books recommended within there. As I was reading it, I was taking notes and adding things to my Amazon cart just so I wouldn't forget all the books she mentioned. But it's a really good one.
So we're gonna kind of break this episode up into segments. Thank you. So kind of some of the benefits of reading aloud, how to have success with reading aloud, and then we're gonna do some of our favorite read aloud books we've done.
Yeah.
So you are in for like a triple treat.
Yes.
Okay, so first we're gonna talk about why do we even need to read aloud and some benefits from it.
Yeah, reading aloud is a great and easy way to help your children reach their full potential. What does that mean?
So as I was Googling it, that's like on therapists and education websites, like it was everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a huge foundation, the principle of a way to help your child to reach their full potential.
It seems so simple, right? It's kind of weird that something so simple could make such a big difference in kids' lives, but it really, really does. And we'll tell you some of the ways that it does.
Yeah, so one of the ways is to connect with your kids.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And it's funny because you can use these books as references. And one of the series I'll talk about that's my favorite is The Chronicles of Prydain. And there's a grumpy old, I believe he's a troll. And he's always good old Dolly. He's like, oh, I have to do everything, good old Dolly. And it is a funny thing that we use within our family, right?
Yeah.
So we
have a lot of things like that too, where it's created little inside jokes within our family, but it's also just connected. You know, you share these stories together, and when you're reading a book, it's not just a story. You kind of get into it as if it's a real thing. You know, you're experiencing these things, and so you're going through these shared experiences together as a family. You laugh together. I cry and they watch me cry. I won't say together because I cry a lot in the read aloud books. But there's just a lot of those emotions that you go through as you're reading these books together, and that really bonds you.
Well, I always thought it was cute. Like, I'm a glutton for my kids saying, like, just one more chapter. And so yesterday I was reading, and we are so close to the end of this book, and I'm going to talk about it later. But it's so good, and we're on the last book, and we're loving it, and I had one kid shoved in the recliner with me, one hovering over us, and the other one hovering on the other side. So I just had the three, and the baby, I think he was down for a nap. And so obsessed and into this story. And I thought, how do you not just love somebody that you're cuddled with and they're reading this adventure? Like, I have to know what happens.
Yes, I can't wait to hear which book you're talking about.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so also it supports healthy brain development. And this is a really cool and important one, but if you think about, they're listening, so it's going to be developing listening skills.
Skill.
They're going to be learning new vocabulary, which is another thing we'll talk about later as well, but they're hearing all these new concepts that they maybe didn't know or understand before. So it's doing so many things to their brain as they're listening.
Yes, and so part of that is that it's promoting the language development and their early I'm going to say it wrong. I know, I was like, I can't even say the word. That's so funny. But it's developing those skills.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it will come out when I least expect it from my kids. because I'm not the most eloquent speaker. It's not a surprise. But sometimes my kids will write really beautifully, and it's because they are being read to and reading such good books.
Right, yeah. And it's also going to set a foundation for them to have success later in life, because just the amazing things that they're learning from these books, but also what it's doing to their minds as they're being read to.
And that safety. There was an interesting episode I was listening to on someone else's podcast, and they had a child psychologist on it, and she talked about one of the greatest ways to really connect with the child is to be in the same room with them and looking them in the eyes and just talking to them, because then they know everything's okay, I'm okay, like this is safe. So imagine this very safe spot. And I don't want to create the illusion that every time my children are snuggled up to me, but it does happen so that they are creating that connection, which then gives them like how to have healthy relationships because they're confident in who they are.
Yeah, definitely. We love that snuggle up time too.
Yeah.
It always makes me laugh because we have, just this, it's kind of like a wingback chair in our living room. And I sit in that, and we usually try to cram a bunch of people in it. There's a couch right over there.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we always end up in the small chair squishing all together with people standing around me. So I don't know how that happens, but it's funny. All right. Also, it gives them a broad knowledge of vocabulary.
We talked about that
a little bit with literacy as well.
Yes, and one of the books that I will recommend at the end, I'll keep you on pins and needles. Is that how you really say it? I know there's a funny show that flips it, so I always think, oh, what's the real way? But the vocabulary is so rich and deep that we a lot of times had to look up what some of the words meant.
Oh, we've had to do that as well with Read-Alouds. And I actually love it when that happens, because then it just gives you another layer of learning. And I love it when I don't know the word, and so my kids are like, oh, she's learning too, so it's great. You're learning together again.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And like we said, it teaches them to listen.
Yeah.
Like that's a skill, is being able to listen.
I like to do books that are a little above their own reading level, so that they are learning things that they wouldn't be able to on their own read, and that's going to give them a deeper knowledge than they would have gotten.
Absolutely.
And also reading books, the kind of the more old-fashioned classic books are going to have a richer vocabulary than a lot of the more modern books do.
Absolutely. I love this. It builds motivation. If you read about somebody who inspires them.
Yes.
We actually read, and I think we talked about in an episode, the Eric Liddell.
Oh, yeah.
He was the Olympian, and he wouldn't compete on Sundays. Like, there was an inspiring story, and he stood like, no, I'm a Christian, and I'm going to do these things, and I don't do these things. And he just went about loving and taking care of others and just died a hero. And so it was beautiful and super inspiring and motivating to action, like motivating to be a better person.
Yeah, and there's so many books that you read to kids that have heroes and stories like that that are just amazing people that you want to emulate and you want to be like them because of their character.
I like it creates curiosity.
Yeah.
So we did the book Half Magic, and it's kind of a silly book that you make a wish and only halfway comes true. But like, Mom, what would you wish for? Like, what if we wished for a horse and we only got the bottom half? Like it creates this fun, like what could we do with it? And this fun curiosity. Yeah,
that's fun. And it also can build their memory as you're reading to them.
Yeah, and especially as you talk about it and you're really into it. And it's a culture of your family speaking about these things and doing these things like, oh, that's right, I loved that part. And it's kind of helping with their memory.
Yeah, the next one I love, it takes children to places and times that they have never been. And I that's one of my favorite parts about reading, I think, is just these experiences that you become immersed in. I've never been to France, but I've read all about France in various books, and I've never been to the 1400s, but I can read about it and know what they lived like during that time period and learn from that. And so you're giving that to your children as well as you're reading these amazing stories to them.
Yeah, and I think even like the cultural differences that like United States versus China versus Germany versus, and I got to talk to somebody the other day from India and the cultural differences. And so to see that in a book, we read The Heart of a Samurai. Oh, yeah. And Japan's culture at the time was that people didn't leave Japan and they didn't let people into Japan. And I didn't know that. Sorry, I didn't, but like it was really fun to meet and learn that that was how their culture was, and here were some pros that happened, here were some cons that didn't work out so great in their favor because of that. But you got to learn a lot about their culture through a lot of these stories.
Yeah. And then finally, it teaches them empathy. and allows them to walk in someone else's shoes, which is a beautiful experience. You know, if you're reading a story of someone going through a hard time and you learn how they're dealing with it, or what they're feeling as they're going through these experiences, it's great lessons for all of us to learn about.
Yeah, I know we do biographies as part of, some of my read-alouds are biography, and some of them my children are reading independently. But one of the ones that teaches a ton of empathy is The Hiding Room.
Hiding Place. The Hiding Place.
Thank you. With Corrie ten Boom. And the empathy and the beauty of that book blows my mind.
Yes.
Of being shoved in a small train with all these people, the hardships they had to endure. And then Corrie ten Boom even talks about that she herself wasn't forgiving and loving at first, and I don't blame her, right? She was going through some horrific things. And so kind of then you can talk that with your kids, like, what do you think you would do if you saw people being prosecuted just for their religion, just for something different than the majority? Like, would you dare to stand up to it? Would you dare to help? And it teaches a lot of compassion and understanding for different things that people have gone through.
Yeah.
So within the book, the Read Aloud family, Sarah Mackenzie has this quote, and I loved it. Raising our children isn't just about getting them ready for adulthood. It isn't just about preparation for a career. It's about transforming and shaping their hearts and minds. It's about nourishing their souls, building relationships and foreign connections. It's about nurturing them with care and compassion for whomever they encounter. It's about taking on the mind of Christ. Just as Jesus wept when Lazarus died, we too must weep with our brothers and sisters, friends and strangers, the brokenhearted and downtrodden.
It's so beautiful. I love that.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It speaks to me. Like, homeschooling isn't to say, my kid's smarter than your kid. My kid knows this better than this kid, right? We're not just raising them for adulthood or for careers. We are transforming and shaping their hearts and their minds.
Yes, definitely. Thanks. That's such a beautiful one. So here are some ideas for success. Sometimes reading aloud can seem really difficult, especially if you have young children.
Yeah.
Chaotic, hard to keep their attention, hard to keep them staying and listening. You know, we talk about our beautiful cuddling up moments, but there are so many other moments that look nothing like that.
Right.
That you're pulling them in, you're telling them to be quiet constantly. You're gonna have struggles, and that's normal. So don't feel like you're doing it wrong.
It's like Meg and Karen's kids just sit there.
No.
And also we've done it for a long time.
We have.
So there is some training.
Kids
that
do
has
build
happened.
up an ability to sit and listen for longer. And with us having been doing it for so long with our children, they're a lot more used to it than children who are just starting out. So it's definitely a skill that kids gain over time. And even those that have been doing it for their whole lives still need sometimes some distractions to keep them in place so that they will listen. And like something to do with their hands, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids have a little pegboard that you can make pictures with. They're just like little colored pegs. They like to pull that out, and we'll often do that while I'm reading to them, or a coloring book or something like that.
Yeah, so magnets
mm-hmm.
like that you can build with the
mag formers, or
yes.
Yeah, we have those as well. So some little like quiet things that you can pull out for younger children or for kids that struggle with staying focused will make the whole thing go so much more smoothly.
Yes. And then, like, watch their attention span. If you have someone who's younger who's like, I can't do this, keep it short.
Yeah.
There's no reason, like, there's no clock or anybody sitting over you saying, read aloud has to be 30 minutes. Maybe it's 30 seconds that day. Maybe it's 5 minutes. And, like, you don't have to finish a chapter.
Nope, you don't. There are some books that have the longest chapters in the world, and my kids beg me to finish the chapters, but I'm like, man, I've been going for 20 pages already. It's time to stop.
Yeah.
But there are some books, you know, that have short, brief chapters, and those ones are a lot more easy to consume and a lot more easy to just read one more.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's what gets me every time. Okay, this was a great one, and I actually talked to somebody about this, but pick fun books, because we always will talk about the classics are beautiful, the classics are wonderful, but sometimes you have to like ease into that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so she was reading a really difficult, beautiful classic, and I said, and she's like, my kids hate it, and they're crying, and I said, nobody said you had to read this book.
Right.
Like, your kids aren't ready for it. So start with just a fun book that's just like, this is going to be a blast. We're going to have an adventure with it. Maybe even a book with some illustrations.
Yeah.
That's like simple, easy to understand there, but there's no rule that says you have to have deep classics that the vocabulary is rich English because it was written in the 1600s. No.
No, I was just talking with my sister about this the other day. She was asking me for books for her. I think her daughter's 8, her 8-year-old daughter. She's just starting to kind of take off reading, but struggling.
Yes.
And not Read-Alouds, but just regular books. And I was quoting from Sarah Mackenzie again from this Read-Aloud family, but she in that book talks about the books that are kind of like candy that you can, give them so that they learn that they can enjoy reading. And sometimes you need those books to start this process out. Sometimes you need the light and the fluffy ones just to show that they can sit and they can listen and they can enjoy this process.
Yeah, I definitely mix in like a classic within like fun, silly book.
And there are really fun classic books too.
Yeah.
There are some that are great fun and that aren't too hard and too complicated. And so you definitely mixing it up, but also paying attention to their attention span and their abilities and if they're understanding or not. There have been books that we've all struggled to understand and we finally just put them down and walked away from them, and I was okay with that. Yeah. It's okay to not finish a book that nobody likes.
Yes, there's no book police. Like, no.
I always feel guilty for myself when I do it. I've got books that I unfinish, and then I sit there on my shelf for 6 months and I'm like, I have to finish it. And then I finally just told myself, it's okay, you don't have all the time in the world to finish these books that don't really interest you. It's okay, move on.
Move on, absolutely. And so even to take it even more simple, you can do picture books. Like there are beautiful books with lovely artwork, and it is super simple.
Especially for younger ones.
Yes. But the big ones enjoy it too.
They do.
They love it. They think they're just as fun with some of these picture books. And so it's okay to like mix that in there.
I was just reading the book. Have you read Westlandia?
No.
Ah, so cute. It's a picture book, and I was reading it last night. My little Millie brought it in for her bedtime story, and everyone else gathered around because it's one of those really good ones. The pictures are beautiful, and the story's just fun and clever and creative, and so everyone kind of comes around and watches and listens, and so there's a lot of amazing picture books like that.
That's funny. So one of the things I was trying to do is, because we do read aloud. That's funny. We do read aloud during the day, but I really wanted to add in reading at night. And my kids were like, we don't want to. You already read to us too much. And so I try to read and feed, but I don't like giving them like food right before bed. So usually it's like I've been trying to do like super healthy stuff, but it doesn't happen every night. But like it's become a fun novelty.
Like weed and feed.
Read and feed. You like that's like they're my little piggies. But they're just like really fun picture books. And so one of them was Circumference, and we've talked about those ones, and it's literally talking about circumference and his Lady Di of Amateur, right? And so just silly books. Mercer Meyer, is that you say his name? Yeah. Lots of his cute little books. And so my kids get excited, and so I try to buy a few new fun ones a month. Yeah. So like, it's time, we're gonna do Read and Feed tonight.
Oh,
so
that's cute.
They get really excited about it. So like, keep it simple with picture books.
Yeah.
But that kind of is one of the ways at nighttime too. I actually tried this at first, but then they kept coming in for the picture books. Is breaking up the age groups. So I would read with my little boys a picture book because they struggled the most with just a book without pictures. And then I'd go into my girls' room and read a different book. And it was funny because they all kept merging into everybody's room. And so I thought, okay, never mind.
I'm just doing one.
But like, that is a really good way if you have littles who just can't sit and bigs who are ready for it.
See, I still do a picture book with my youngest every night, and then the older ones, I have another chapter book that we read together, and that varies, but yeah. And then, breaking it up, and if you have a read aloud time with your older kids during the day, just make sure you have a special time with your little one too, if you have younger ones that can't focus. Because my little ones can't always listen through all of the books that the bigger ones can, so.
Yes, it's funny. Georgie's learned to be silly lately, and so like Faith will put a blanket on his head and run circles. We're like, night mama, and we're like, I just get louder to read. So like, it's not always perfect, but like when he'll go and play with some other kids, because my big kids don't always read aloud with us in the morning, and so they'll sometimes play with them, or we'll put them down for a nap. But the next 3 now, and it's been funny because my Briggy, he's 8, and he has really struggled with read aloud. It has been a difficult skill for him. He's busy. He's always been active. But it's been funny is this year I said, okay, here are things you can do. Harassing your brother is not one, or punching him. Like, those are the things you cannot do. But we gave him some options what he could do. And that's been helpful. And it's been funny as he's been way into this last book that I am not going to tell quite yet, that he can sit through it now and like cuddle up to me.
Oh, that's fun. That's great.
So.
Oh, I was just thinking of a couple of tips. There are days when, if you're sick or you're struggling with reading aloud, that I've had my biggest kid read to my younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
If you've lost your voice and you can't read that day, just if you have multiple children, put your biggest kid on the read aloud for the day, and that can be really helpful. But another thing I do often is I always have a audiobook on in the car when we're running errands, and we just finished, actually, I think it was this morning, the Farmer Boy book that we've been reading, and my 8-year-old was just eating that up, and it finished, and he just wanted more. He's like, I need the next one right away.
Oh, that's cute.
So we downloaded the next in the series, and he's excited we're gonna do Little House on the Prairie next.
Oh, that's fun.
So.
I've always tried to do that, to like do the audiobooks. I'm like, why doesn't it not work for my family? And I
do it in the car?
Well, no, in the car.
Yeah.
But I found out my back speakers don't work in my big
van.
van.
Yeah, that wouldn't
so
work.
So like they'd be like, turn it up, and I'm like, I'm going deaf, it hurts. And so only the front 2 speakers work in my 15-passenger van.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
And so I was like, oh, that's why it's not working in mine. So
my kids love it, and it keeps them calm and quiet on the drives. So it's been a good thing for us. I enjoy doing that with them.
Yeah, so that's fun. And we've even had, my husband, this is one of the areas that he has loved. When I've had a new baby, he always reads a new series to us.
Oh, that's great.
And so that's really fun because everybody's there. When you have a new baby, you're not involved in as much. And so that's been something really fun for him, is that he likes to.
Good idea.
It doesn't always happen, but I mean, I don't have a new baby anymore. So it hasn't happened for a little while. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
For some of our favorite read-alouds.
Megan's going to share her secret.
Okay, it's actually just because we're in the middle of it. I'm dying to know how it happened. But it's The Green Ember.
Oh, I love that book so much.
Okay, don't tell me how it ends.
I won't.
Okay, so there are 3 books, and it's
so good.
Cute little rabbits, and there are birds of prey and wolves that are their nemesis, and even within the rabbits, some of the rabbits have segregated and joined in with the wolves and the birds.
Yes.
So it is good versus evil, but like not gory violent, no sex, no swearing, like it's just...
It's a good series.
Yes.
Yeah, we loved those.
Like standing up for what's right, doing something even though it's hard. And yesterday they had me read like an hour and a half in the morning. And then last night my husband worked late, and so they said, read to us. So I read an hour, and my eyes were hurting so bad. And I just said, friends, like, I will do it tomorrow. But then my daughter had to go babysitting today, and they're like, you cannot not read this.
Oh, that's great.
Tonight.
I love that.
So we'll finish it tonight, and we have loved The Green Ember.
Yeah, those are fabulous. We love those as well. You want to go through your list of some of your favorites, and then I can share some of mine?
Okay, so the next one was Emmy and the Incredible Shrinking Rat. These are just fun. A lot of these books are just fun books too. And so it's magical animals and just kind of silly and fun. But this one, I think we loved it because we got into it and we read it, and my husband and I were actually leaving on a trip that night. And we started it in the morning, and they said, you're going to be leaving anyway. So we didn't do any school, and we binge read almost the whole entire book. I
love it.
And like, I would pack a little bit, and then like Ringo read some more, and like people would be like, we got to eat, but they ate, and like they had me read. So it was just such a fun day.
That's cute.
And then we were leaving for the airport, and they had maybe like 20, 30 pages left. And I'm like, I have to go. And so my daughter finished it. And then they called me like, this is how it ended. So Emmy and the Incredible Shrinking Rat.
That's cute. I haven't read that. I'll have to read it.
It's super cute. That one I think I just got from the library, so I don't think I could even let you borrow it. Of course, Chronicles of Narnia. Like,
those are fabulous.
You just gotta read Chronicles of Narnia. And the next one that is not talked about as much, and I talked about it with good old Dolly, Chronicles of Prydain. And Chronicles of Prydain are amazing, life-changing, beautiful.
I've only read the first one.
You've got to read the whole series. There's 5 of them. And my kids and my husband actually choose Prydain over Narnia.
Oh, wow.
Like, they've reread them.
That's cool.
A lot of my books are missing their covers because they are everywhere.
Yeah.
Another fun one is the Penderwicks. That one is super cute for sisters and their dad go on a holiday, and they have like tons of adventures and just cute. Like
my
these are
daughter's
all
reading that right now in her
yes. These are all books that my kids are like, don't stop reading.
Yes.
So these are the ones I'm recommending. Okay, one of the most beautiful books I've ever read, Moon Over Manifest. I bawled my eyes out
that's a
in
fabulous
this one.
one.
And that was that was our last summer book that we binge read like in a week or two. And it was beautiful and I cried, and it's lovely, this little girl and her dad, and he drops her off in a town in Manifest, and she doesn't really know her story or why her dad has left her there. And it's kind of a fun detective book because it doesn't give you a lot of the details, and it goes back in time and current time. And you're trying to figure out like who everybody is within the town and what made this town so solid. I get chills just thinking about it because you find out a sacrifice a mother made and to give her child the best life possible.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. Please read that. Bud Not Buddy. It was funny. I liked it, but it was fun when I was asking my kids some of their favorites. They were like Bud Not Buddy. And so he's a cute little boy, I believe like Detroit area.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I just thought of another favorite
okay.
adding to my list.
Okay. So Bud Not Buddy, he's a cute little boy, and he doesn't know who his dad is, and his mom passes away, and so it's kind of this little adventure as he's trying to figure out who his dad is.
Okay.
And so he's kind of going through this little story. Hatchet.
Yes.
I feel like if you're a homeschooler, you have to read Hatchet. But it's so fun. This little boy's parents are divorced, and he's getting on a little airplane to go see his dad in Canada, and the pilot has a heart attack and he crashes. So he's in the middle of the Canadian Rockies or somewhere in Canada, and all he has is a hatchet, and he has to survive. And so all my kids have loved this book.
Yeah.
My daughter carried around a hatchet. That's probably not the safest thing, but I'm like, she did. I'm all about...
Hopefully not a very sharp one.
It wasn't. It was actually super old, but she carried it around the yard, like with her hatchet.
It was
like,
tough.
It was. That's funny. Okay, so this one that had the rich vocabulary that I mentioned earlier is Penrod. Have you ever read Penrod?
Not yet, but it's on my list because you've recommended it.
We love Penrod. Here is my disclaimer. It was written early 1900s, and it uses the N-word for African Americans. I have read it aloud. I didn't have my kids read it, and so I just would always edit that out.
Oh, okay.
So my kids love this book. I don't even know if they know that's in there.
Okay.
So that is my only disclaimer. The writing is hilarious. Penrod is this totally mischievous boy, always getting into trouble. His mom wants him to go to a dance, so he decides to throw himself off the shed to try to break his legs instead of having to go. Like, he's just naughty. And so the little neighbor boys that move in that are the African American family, it's hilarious because he's like, I want to be a preacher because a preacher has to climb a pole. And he's like, what? And he's like, you got to climb up the pole to heaven, and then you have to say, don't take me down, saying, don't take me down. And so it is the funnest book, and the vocabulary is super rich. And then my last one, sorry, I felt like I could have gone on forever.
Yeah, that's all right.
Is Understood Betsy. Have you ever read this one?
Yeah, it's a great
this was one that my kids were like, this book is stupid, this is for girls. And then, like, a few chapters in, my boy's like, well, are you going to read more? Well, like, are we going to finish it? And so it's this cutest little Betsy. She lives with her aunts. She's an orphan. And they have just... like, as much as I spoil Master George, right? Like, she's never had to lift a finger. She's never had an original thought. That's my favorite line from the whole book. Like, it was her first original thought. And she has to go live with the low-down cousins, right, that are dirty and scoundrels, but they teach her a lot. And it's a beautiful book.
Yeah, I really liked that one, too.
Hopefully I didn't go on too long.
No, that's great.
Read
that was a lot of fun. So here's some from my list. I'm probably not as good as description as Megan, but Charlotte's Web.
Yes.
We all know that story. The book is always better than the movie, so I highly recommend the book, and it's a lot of fun to read. But by the same author, this one's not as well known, but Trumpet of the Swan. And it is so much fun. We laughed and laughed through that one. I'm just going to go through my list quickly.
Yeah, sorry, I went too long.
Because Megan talked too long. We're almost out of time. The Wing Feather Saga, fabulous. The Little House series, The Secret Garden. Thornton Burgess Animal Stories.
Oh, yes.
The Five Children and It, and Others by Edith Nesbit is the author. She's so good. Pippi Longstocking.
Oh, yes, Pippi.
Winnie the Pooh. I know it sounds very childish, but they are so fun and so hilarious. I love those stories. Pollyanna, and then Swallows and Amazons. Loved this story. If you haven't read it, it was so much fun. And they are a series. I've only read the first, but we loved that book. It was amazing. So we are almost out of time. We want to keep it at 30 minutes, so we're going to wrap this up, but we would just want to say thank you so much for listening. We'll put all of these books in the show notes for you so you can find them.
Let us know if you have any more great suggestions.
And tell us your favorites. Yes. We will talk to you later.
See ya.